Does anybody, for extra information, you can choose either of those options. No, but they're not looking at your face anyway. Okay, yep, all right, we're good. All right, so before the break, we spent a lot of time with Hector and Mary. And yes, the play was about bullying, but hopefully that there was a whole lot of other things that you got out of that as well, right? So whether it's that model around blame and contribution, about how we look at situations or how we identify something and therefore what we do with it, or the script in terms of thinking about the I've noticed, so when something's happened, that we could choose to step back, take a bit of time and space, and then go and have a conversation for curiosity, right? So we call it a conversation for curiosity, which the genuine aim or intention is to explore why is this person operating in the way? What don't I know? What is their standard that maybe is different to my standard, which is why they've operated the way that they have and I'm operating the way I have. So we've looked at that as well. We now want to have a look at a model called conflict resolution styles. It's in your booklet, so you don't need to take any notes if you don't want to, and the information in the booklet covers off of it. But we want to explore it in a little bit of detail. The model says that there's three primary ways that we as human beings do conflict, but those ways exist on a continuum. Yeah? At this end of the continuum are people that have a passive approach to conflict resolution. So you might know someone who's a peacekeeper, and they might say something like this: let's not argue about this. It's not worth arguing about. Or they will say, look, you're right, I'm wrong, let's move on. I have problems even getting those words out of my mouth. And then we have someone who's an avoider, so they see you coming in there, out that door before you can get anywhere near them. Yep. Whatever they do, the aim is do not engage with conflict. At the other end of the continuum are people that have an aggressive approach to conflict resolution. So for them, conflict is a bit of a battle to be won, right? Victorious. And in that battle, they have what we call some great attack and defense moves. So you might come to them with an issue that you want to discuss, but before you know it, hey, yeah, they are back at you with what about when you did this or that sort of stuff. Yep. And then we have people who have an assertive approach to conflict resolution. So if you in the past have done some kind of communication course, you may have heard this concept of separating the person from the problem, right? And you focus on the problem. So that's what people with an assertive conflict resolution style do. And the aim for them is compromise. So what we find is that for people who have an aggressive approach to conflict resolution, the outcome is a win-lose outcome. Yep, with the person who's more aggressive being the winner. For people that have an assertive approach to conflict resolution, it's a win-win outcome. And for people that have a passive approach for conflict resolution, there is no outcome, right? Because they don't even play the game. Each one of you will have a natural conflict resolution style. I want you to start to think about what your style is, because in a few minutes, we're going to get you to actually come up here and place yourself on a continuum based on what your conflict resolution style is. So to help you think about that, there's a couple of things that might be useful. The first is the research tends to suggest that we take on the conflict resolution style of those people who we grew up with. Yep. So in my family, my mum and dad, my dad had an aggressive conflict resolution style. My mum probably had somewhere between an assertive and aggressive. We lived on an orchard. Dad was a great man of routine. He'd come in at 12 o'clock for lunch. He'd go out and pick fruit. He'd come back in at 3 o'clock for afternoon tea, right? And somewhere in between there, he'd come in for lunch and he'd have an argument with my mum about whatever, really in which he was telling her how it was going to be. She would be left afterwards going, oh, what happened? He would go out and pick fruit, come back at 3 o'clock and he'd be fine, right? Because he'd been out in the orchard for 3 hours and Mum would be there going, what happened? We didn't talk about it. So I thought I'd taken on my mother's lovely assertive conflict resolution style until some brave person told me when I was about 30, you know people are afraid of you, don't you? I was like, no, really? She goes, yes, they are. Okay, so this is I'm the person that goes into battle. I go into battle for people that I don't even care. You know, if I hear an injustice, I will battle on their behalf in my mind. I have arguments, you know, the whole works, right? So this is a very strong conflict resolution style in me. Now, the other way that you can think about it is also, what's your natural style outside of your workplace? So don't think about in the workplace, because we have this sense about modifying in the workplace. But when you are outside the workplace and when someone presses that button, where do you naturally go? While you're thinking about that, we're going to have a little bit of fun, and we're going to choose an animal mascot for each of our conflict resolution styles. So here's how it's going to work, semi-democratic process. In your buddies for 30 seconds, you're going to have a conversation about an animal that represents a passive conflict resolution style. We're then going to get 2 of those named animals up onto the board, you're going to vote for them, and that becomes our mascot for the purposes of this activity. Does that make sense? Okay, so literally 30 seconds with your buddies, choose an animal as passive. I'm going to come back and ask.